low-rated CNN anchor.
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CB.
Thank you, President Trump. Do you
Bukele.
plan to ask President
Low-rated.
Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is it?
deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it
So
was
is this
paperwork.
is this the guy that they're making a bunch of fuss about? The Democrats are claiming he's not is an innocent guy, and they're saying he's part of MS-13.
that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
And you are doing a great job.
Thank
you.
you.
Wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue
I would challenge the Democrats to okay, you're saying this guy is innocent, prove it. I would want both sides to show their proof. You know what I mean? Show why they say he is a MS-13 and the other side prove why they say he's an innocent guy.
by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world.
If you're a Democrat, don't you at least want to be sure that this is not this is true or not? Do you know what I mean? Or do you not give a fuck if it's true or not? Or are you serving a different agenda?
World, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
him
Court is
to get him
asking
back?
to,
In the Supreme Court, Steve, was it 9-0?
Yes, there's a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor.
So the Supreme Court, the idea to make Iran lose its nuclear weapons is with a purpose to make them weak so I country can threaten them. Yeah, I mean, in that situation, I can understand Iran saying, hey, listen, if this is true, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that they said, well, if we're going to denuclearize them, the whole Middle East should do it all together. And if that's true, they got a point.
Against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court,
So
can
he's
only
not
be
even an
directed to him.
American.
I asked
Se lo
President,
liberaría.
can President Bukele weigh in?
Jaws.
Do you
Is that
plan
what
to
you're saying,
return him?
Zarkos? Jaws. I'm self-censoring when it comes to the whole hat people. Because it is one of their tactics to label you something. Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to play like Trump. I don't play the game. So I call it something else. He plays for them. Perhaps he does, or perhaps spy, or whatever you call it. Actor. Double
So
triple actor.
How can I smuggle?
Because remember, just a few months ago, Trump retweeted a video of a guy saying that the president of the I country, he's like war hungry and he's like crazy. He retweeted that. Trump did. Why would he do that? A little bit weird, right? If he's really with the I country in that sense, why the fuck would he retweet a video bad-mouthing the president of the I country?
Can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggled him?
Again, I have to reiterate, with Trump, you never really know. He might say one thing, but he might have another plan behind that. You know what I mean? He is a fucking master at this. I'm not sucking his balls. I'm just saying, from my assessment, this guy is a master, man. He is a master. I just tried to post comments mentioning. Well, that might have been from my end. You know, I can control that to a degree. I might have put that in. I hope I did. Yeah, I might have done that. It's settings.
Him into the United States. Or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is.
You know what I'm thinking with that? Say you stream, right? And then you get somebody, an agent the other side, the chat, and type a lot of to get you in trouble. For example, the agent might pretend to be an I country hater, so he posts up so that later they can use that against you. See, like this streamer, look at what the comment section is saying. Look at that, anti I country. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like a precautionary thing so that they can't do that kind of attack.
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal,
Yeah,
released as well.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Mark, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Island, it's to understand what the confusion is.
These are sick. These are sick people.
This individual is a citizen of El
Sweden is
Salvador.
not a free
He was
place to
illegally in
be.
the United States and was returned
Yeah, it's not
to his
free.
country.
No
That's where you deport
country
people
really
back to
is,
their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back or places like that.
Well, I'm not
I can
just
tell you
thinking about
this, Mr.
Sweden. I'm
President.
thinking in
No,
general.
the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said
How long do we have to
that
answer
it must
this
be
question from
facilitated.
you? Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that?
What's illegal?
Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
Thank you so much. How many illegal criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador? And President Bukele, how many are you willing to take from the U.S.?
As many as possible. And I just asked the president, it's this massive complex that he built, jail complex.
I
He said,
wonder if there is some kind of a deal between the U.S. and, for example, El Salvador, where Trump is like, all right, if you host these criminals, take them out of our country, we'll pay you, I don't know, 100 billion for the problem, we pay you. Just host these people. We don't want them, and we pay you. I wonder if there is there must be, right? He's not just doing it freely, right?
Can you build some more of them, please? As many as we can get out of our country that were allowed in here by incompetent Joe Biden through open borders.
Joe Biden apparently is scheduling a speech. He's scheduling a speech talking shit about Trump. Who the fuck want to listen to Joe Biden? Especially not the president, so supposedly, like, you know, he was never the president, even when he was the president. That was the clearest example of, you know, there is a shadow government during the Biden thing. This is a soft way to fuck away the journalist. I think it's good. Especially the bullshitters.
Probably hear open borders and you can't even understand it because nobody can understand it. Nobody smart or with common sense can understand it. So we have millions of people that should not be in this country that are dangerous. Not just people, because we have people, but we have millions of people that are murderers, drug dealers. They've been allowed to come into our country by other countries that were very smart.
The right way is to forbid them to work and put them in jail. Yeah, and there was a commenter in the other stream that said, like, how come Trump hasn't done anything regarding the fake news? And my theory is, or was, and still is that he's not done with them. Meaning, he's letting them do their bullshit in order to tank their credibility. You know, so it's organically tarnishing and destroying. They're destroying themselves by the bullshit that they're putting out there. So that's my theory, that he's still keeping them there till they've reached a certain threshold where he or whatever deems them, all right, they are now at a super all-time low of credibility. The rest of the number doesn't matter. Now let's go after them. I don't know.
When they heard
Just
that
a
this
theory.
very low IQ president, and by the way,
Because remember, what he also could be them, you know, with using them against themselves. What he's doing is he's using them to lecture the population about snaky media. Because not everybody's aware. So he's literally awakening them to the notion of snaky people like these fake news media. So he's kind of lecturing the population, and that is worth a lot. Because in my book, once a truth is learned, you're never going back from that. You know what I mean? So once the truth has been learned for the population about the fake news fully to a certain threshold, the job is done. That's what I think. It's the USA. They invented that circus. They're used to it. Well, I think a big portion of the population is getting it.
Exam as part of my physical
Otherwise,
exam,
they wouldn't be
and I
losing
got the highest mark, and one of the doctors
viewers.
said, "Sir, I've never seen anybody get that kind of. That was the highest mark. I hope you're happy with that. Although they haven't been bugging me too much to take a cognitive, but I did do physical, and it was released. I hope you're all happy with it. I noticed there's no question, so probably you are. But the cognitive, they said to me, "Sir, would you like to take a cognitive test?" I said, "Did Biden take one?" "No." "Did anybody take one?" "No."
Dude,
too many.
not only did Biden not take any cognitive or whatever test, remember there was this, they wanted to charge him in court for being completely retarded and get him out of office even. But their excuse was, this guy is so demented, he doesn't remember shit, therefore we can't charge him, or some shit like that. Like he is not mentally fit to be charged. Some shit like that.
People took them. I said, what about Obama? Did he take one?" "No, he didn't take one either." I said, "Let me be the only one to take one." But I've actually 3 times already. I like taking them because they're sort of
I like his hair.
not too tough for me to
Golden.
take. But
He got golden
we had a
hair.
great physical exam, so I know you're going to ask that. And the doctors who are total professionals, Walter Reed Medical Center, they're great people.
Got gold hair.
And I visited a soldier that was badly wounded, incredible soldier, lost his leg, and spent a lot of time with him. I mean, great with his mother, and it was really a very great thing. They do a phenomenal job. I just want to say, Walter Reed, I was there for, 5-6 hours. You were there with me. But I took a full physical, and it came out perfecto, so that's good. And she got me for a little longer.
Would the U.S. be willing to pay for those facilities to be opened if new ones were going to be built?
I'd do something, we'd help them out, yeah, we help them. They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam, I don't know what the laws are, we always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit
Yeah, I've
elderly
seen
ladies
sick
on the back
videos
of the
like
head
that.
with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are
Damn. Hitting a
absolute
baseball bat.
monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve, okay?
President-
Yeah, that law, as I said before, has to be changed. I don't care. If I was the president, I will push for that. Like, it doesn't matter. If you're a twisted motherfucker, U.S. citizen or not, you can be thrown out. You can be thrown out of the country. We don't give a fuck. Because once you've crossed that line, all bets are off. We don't give a fuck. We don't want you here. Citizen or not, fuck off. You're deranged. You know. They tried to times in 4 months. He should do something about it. I think he's done. He has to have done something about it. So far, it's as if nothing has happened. Yeah, but that's when you have to think a little bit deeper. I really think this man would not go after that thing. Come on, man. No way in hell he didn't go after it. So if it looks like nothing is happening, that's probably by some design. You know what I mean? Because there's no way he didn't go after the assassin. Or whatever that was.
More presidents should follow suit like you guys as far as taking a hard stance on crime here in the United States.
Well, I think everybody has to.
Because think about it.
The
Just
president said it better than
Just what he's talking about here. What is he doing? He's going after MS-13 gangs and murderers, right? And he's really going after it hard, right? You don't think he'd go after people that was trying to do that to him? No way. No way.
anybody. He said, you have liberty and you have to have liberty, but to have liberty, not everybody is gonna be.
Hey, I just want to say, I would love to play a poker game with this guy, right? Right? A poker game with this guy. He must be a great poker player. I don't know if he ever played it. But if he never played poker, I think he would learn pretty quickly and become a fierce player in poker in a short while.
And some are bad because they're sick. They're mentally deranged, they're bad. Then you have to take them, if you're gonna have a country, you're gonna have to take those people out. And we've been doing that.
So
But
common
this
sense.
was like an unforced error, they would call it, where we had people that may hate our country, or maybe they're just stupid people. I think they're probably stupid people more so. A lot of people said they did it for the vote. But I did better with Hispanic people than they did, because they always use Hispanic. I did better. You love me. I saw my poll numbers in your country up through the roof, right? 91%. Some people think they do it for the vote.
And I just
But
say,
they don't have to do it for
I
the
have
vote.
a good vibe about this guy. I remember seeing one speech a few years ago at the CPAC. He went to the American Convention, CPAC, or whatever the fuck it's called. He held a speech, and he was talking some real shit in that speech. He said, like, your country is the leader, like, you can't lose your country to these deep state or whatever. And he talked about how taxes is a fucking fraud. And he talked about how they're printing money and reducing. Like, he talked some real shit, this guy, the El Salvadorian president. And I don't know, just looking at him and the way he talks and behaves, I got a good vibe from him. I don't know why.
They cheat, they're professional cheaters. That's about the only thing they do well. So we just have had a great relationship, and it's become bigger because of a strange thing that happened. I came back. We had no war in Ukraine. We had no October 7th Middle East problem. We had nothing. We had no inflation. We didn't have the Afghanistan, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, the Afghanistan, not withdrawing, because I would have been out, I had it all set to bring people out with dignity and pride. That was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan. We didn't have any of that. You wouldn't have had the war with Russia, Ukraine. You wouldn't have had the Middle East problem because Iran was broke. They had no money. because we had secondary sanctions on and lots of other sanctions. And now every single thing, got a problem with Iran, but I'll solve that problem. That's almost an easy one. We got to solve a war that should have never
Okay.
started, Ukraine and Russia.
Interesting
And
that he
we'll
said
get that
that.
solved. And we have to solve problems, and we already solved inflation. You know, if you look at the numbers are incredible, actually. Stock market's up, and we're not letting other countries take advantage of this country like they have for the last 40 years. So thank you very much. You have a question, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, thank you so much. You scored another major investment win this morning when NVIDIA pledged to build its AI supercomputer, the first time ever, right here in the
This is
United
that
States.
question.
That's a question I like.
Or the
That's true.
statement.
What is your reaction
That he
to
liked.
this announcement?
Well, it's one of the biggest announcements you'll ever hear, because NVIDIA, as you know,
Yeah, of
controls
course it's
that.
the demon rats that tried to off him. Means he wouldn't even like to meet you. You're Iranian, for crying out loud. That's not true. Have you heard what he said about Iranian people? Plenty of times he's like, they're really smart, talented people. I really like the Iranian people. Not so much the government, but he has said a lot of good stuff about Iranian people. I might even find it.
Almost the entire sector, which is one of the most important sectors.
Not
in
that
the
I
world,
care.
Between chips and
much.
semiconductors and everything else. And they're the biggest. And the other biggest we already have coming in and spending $300 billion, as you know. They announced 2 weeks ago. But NVIDIA is so highly respected. And this was an announcement that a lot of people, I knew it was going to happen, but not to the extent that it happened. It's big. And the reason they did it is because of the election on November 5th and because of a thing called tariffs, as I say, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. After love, God, relationship, the press actually hit me and said, tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. What about family, love, God? I got hit even on that. You understand? I said, okay. So I said, it's my fifth most favorite word because they get you on anything. But that NVIDIA, it's one of the great companies of the world, modern, super modern companies, controls segments that nobody, sort of controls the world in a sense, and they're coming in here in this way with hundreds of billions of dollars, not millions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, and I'm honored by it. And I want to thank Jensen and all of the people that we deal with. They're great people, they're brilliant people. And without tariffs, they wouldn't be doing it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch
Yeah. I would want to pick this guy's mind. You know what I mean? Very interesting mind to pick.